Steve, we begin with some news in the Penn State sports media world from 5-time, maybe 6-time. At this point, I've lost how many times he's been on the podcast, Mr. Brian Tripp. I don't know if you saw, he's launching a rival Penn State sports podcast with also former guest Christian Hackenberg. We don't wish them, we wish them success. Thank you.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Is it? I did not notice. Sorry.
It's called Statewide. It's called Statewide, apparently.
So is it State Media or the one?
It is from the State Media crew. So,
Well, sometimes
we were here first, though, guys.
Sometimes they'll go out and find a proven podcast and just bring them into the network.
Just saying, we were here first, guys. Don't you forget that.
That'd be great.
I'm excited for that.
You should have played quarterback. Jesus.
Yeah.
Hack.
Me. That's the problem,
The other lion, Tommy Stevens. I mean,
clear. This is all your fault. You reached out to, you wanted to do the podcast, and then you reached out to me first.
Okay.
Anyways, name of the
good luck for them. That's great.
Yeah. No, seriously, actually, good luck to them. We were very excited for that. The name of this podcast, which you are listening to, called Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
We're joined by this is, they're not coming for our guest book, at least right now, because we're joined. We put the call out there. Anybody wants the Stuff Summer Says bump? We've got at least one person in line, and she's already now moved through the line by the time you listen to our interview. That is our conversation with Penn State softball coach Clarisa Crowell. She was a great conversation, really about a little bit of everything that kind of you're used to from us, but in particular, kind of navigating a growing sport in a fascinating landscape. I thought her honesty there was very appreciated. So take a listen to that, and then we will sum up. I think it's fine to do it. Maybe our post-mortem of the 2025-26 Penn State athletic school year through a new measuring device. Sure.
A new
data collection process.
Okay.
So take a listen to our interview. We'll be back after this. Steve, a few weeks ago, we had Jeff Tambroni on. Then they went on to win the Big Ten tournament. We put a call out to coaches at Penn State. If you want to join, get the Stuff Summer Says with Steve bump. And it would appear that whether she knows it or not, she's the first in line to get on the train,
season
so
for
to speak.
recruiting and the transfer portal and everything. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what we're working hard on right now.
Yeah,
so I heard
sure.
Coach Tambroni, and I said, well, I got to go do it if he's doing it, and Coach Katie. So I can't say no with that elite group. But no, appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah. Our guest today is head coach of Penn State softball, Clarisa Crowell. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making time. Clarisa, you have been, I was doing some research today, and you've been a coach for, comparatively to a lot of other Penn State coaches, probably a little bit longer than most. But I want to know from you, was there a specific moment that you were like, I want to be a
Yes, I would
coach?
have to say, so I've always loved the game, right? And the second best thing to playing it is coaching. So when I was in college, I was actually doing lessons and doing clinics, and I was coaching a travel ball team. And it was really my junior year where I said, you know what? I really this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And it was my junior year in college where I said, here's the plan. I want to go to graduate school. That's how I want to start. I want to get my foot in the door. I want to get my degree, and then I want to coach. And that's exactly what I did. And I've always been the type of person, once I have a goal, I create a plan and a process, and I try to execute it at a high level. And I've been very fortunate and blessed in my career. So yeah, I played my 4 years at Virginia Tech. I was a volunteer assistant my 5th year while I finished up school. I was studying for my, studying to get in, or preparing myself to get into grad school. And I went to Ohio University to start, where I started out as a graduate assistant for their program.
What keeps you coming back?
Just the world of college athletics. And I know we oftentimes talk about the craziness of and the landscape and how it's changing, but at the end of the day, I just absolutely love the world that I get to be in. Especially being able to be a part of the Penn State community and the Penn State family. There's no other There's no it's the best university in the country, and I'm surrounded by elite level people in all aspects every single day who are passionate, who are driven, who are hardworking, and I absolutely love my student athletes and my coaching staff and everybody that's a part of the program, and so yeah, that's what keeps you in it. I think it's just in short, I love the environment. I love competing at the highest level. And I love just being here and being a Penn Stater and being alongside of all of the wonderful people I get to be around. And at the end of the day, I think everybody knows this. You love what you do because the people that you're with doing it with. And I can, thankfully be able to say that I love what I do and I love the people I'm doing it with.
You talked about the changes in the landscape.
Mhm.
What's on your plate as a coach now on a daily or weekly basis that wasn't there 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think the obvious what we're all dealing with, not just for me with softball, but in all sports, right? It's the NIL, it's the rev share. It's really trying to find ways to raise money for the program and raise money to bring players in. And that's really no secret because we're all trying to do that. So I think that has certainly been the biggest shift with really just within the past couple of years. And I think we often maybe sometimes talk about the negative aspects of the NIL space. However, I think there's a lot of positives for the student athletes, right? And we talk to our kids a lot about their ability to build their brand while they're here at Penn State. I think people just focus on the money aspect, which it is a big aspect, but there's a lot of great opportunities for student athletes in every sport in today's era. They really can start building their brand that's just gonna help them for the future. So with some of the challenges that come with the NIL space, I do think that there's a lot of opportunities for student athletes as well.
So how do you stay ahead on that? Like, I mean, are kids asking you, and are you saying here's what we can provide and how we can support you? How has that conversation changed for you, or you gotten stronger at having that conversation? 'Cause you've experienced it and maybe more informed.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, I think our department in itself, I think we do a really good job of educating our student athletes and providing them all the resources that we have here at Penn State to help them in that space. However, for me, what is first and foremost is when we go out and bring and recruit student athletes, right? It doesn't start with the NIL, it doesn't start with the money. It really starts about who we are as a university, a department, and a program, right? And at the end, for it to work, you have to find the right kids that are gonna buy into your program, and we talk about this all the time. We're gonna be all into Penn State, our university, our department, and of course our program. So for us, it doesn't start with the money, and I think we've done a really great job here of finding kids who come to our program and have a great experience. And I was just on a call earlier and somebody was asking me like, hey, you don't ever really have mass exodus. You don't have a lot of kids that go into the portal. How is that? And I just think when kids get here, they have a really good experience. And I think we do an excellent job of developing our kids, in all aspects. So NIL is a big part of today, but I think the culture piece and making sure we find the right fit and really talking about what a great university our university is and the education that they're going to, the degree that they're going to walk away with. So there's a lot of other things that we talk about. It's not just about the money for us.
Last one for me for now is about you.
Mhm.
What is the shared story or stories that student athletes will have about you if kids have played with you and they get together? Is there a story? Is there a mantra that you share? Is there some way you go about your business that they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, that's her. She did that with us too. That's her DNA. That's who she is."
Yeah, I think just the passion that I played with. It's funny because one of my teammates from Virginia Tech, that's where I played. She texted me. There was a picture that I think it was from our Oregon series, and she goes, "Yep, that's the same look you had when we played." Right. So I would say that everybody who is alongside of me, whether it was back in the day as a student athlete or now, my passion is what drives me to do what I do, and I love what I do. So I don't know if you've ever seen me coach, but I just say there's a lot of, and Nick sees me all the time, so he is privy to a lot of passionate moments. But no, I honestly think that that would be the one thing that they would say, and also that I'm a blue collar kid from Hawaii who just puts my head down and I work really hard and I'm not afraid of working hard and I think that's how we've been able to build. I've surrounded myself with great people and so, but yeah, we've done a lot of great things in the 6 years that I've been here, but excited to keep growing and elevating the program.
Like,
What does a stereotypical, or maybe not stereotypical, but what are the boxes on a checklist for a Penn State softball player in
Yeah.
terms of look, play, ability, things like that for you,
Well,
personality,
first
all
off,
those
comprehensive
factors?
excellence is the cornerstone of our program. And when we talk about that, we want kids who want to excel at all facets of life. So as people excel at a high level in the classroom and want to win championships out on the field. And when we talk about our values, it's family, blue collar, and tough. So really when we evaluate kids from a personality standpoint and and even their families are a big part of the recruiting process, but that's what we're looking for. Those are the kids that have fit well in our program. And but another big thing in order to win, you have to have some competitive kids. I want kids who want to compete at the highest level, who want to be challenged and who want to go to work and work at a high level. And when you look at the amount of softball players, and this is probably the case for all Power Four sports, but less than 1% of student athletes make it to the Power Four level to play softball, which is a crazy stat. So when we talk about being blue collar, it's not about just working hard. It's about I need kids who want to get 1% better every day and who want to outwork the 1%, right? Like that's what we talk about. And our staff, we have to do our due diligence in the recruiting process of making sure that kids do check our boxes, check the boxes that we have. And I think we've done a pretty good job overall of finding the right kids that buy into that. But, obviously the talent, you've got to have talented kids, and I've been fortunate where we've had some key players in the program over the past few years who have really stepped up. And one of them actually is the freshman this year who just got named a freshman All-American, Allison Oneacre, who's the top 10 finalist for freshman of the year. When we recruited her, we knew she had the talent, but what has really separated her is just her work ethic, just her mindset, her composure. So a lot of different things that we look at, but the culture piece for us is first and foremost. But again, you've got to get some talented kids as well.
Season has been over about
It
two
feels like
weeks
two
now for
months.
you when you've reflected.
That's what it feels like. It feels like our kids have been gone from us for 2 months, which when the season ends and you kind of, and people don't, it's not just the end of softball games, right? It's you don't get to see your kids every day. It's just very different in the summer. And I just have to, for whoever's listening to this who's a Penn State fan, this year when it came to our team, our families, our donors, our alums, I'm so thankful for that, for such a special group this year, because I know there were a lot of people heartbroken when the season was over, but I think it's just because of the love that we have in the program in all areas with everybody who's a part of it. And when your kids go home in the summer and you miss them when they leave, I think that's a good thing. So yes, that's why it has felt like it's been 2 months. But yes, certainly a
That's
lot of
fair.
things that we're closing down last year, but onward to next year and lots of reflection, lots of planning that has already taken place right now.
Well, what are you? That was what I was going to ask. What are you reflecting on? What you mentioned the gratitude for the season and the community, but what else are you reflecting
Yeah,
on
I
right
mean,
now
just
about the last
holistically,
season?
especially as head coach, I've got to look at it in its entirety, right? I've got to look at it from a culture standpoint. How do we do academically? And then obviously the softball piece is a big piece. And, yes, we talk about this all the time. Let's celebrate the things that we did well, but most importantly, right, like how are we getting 1% better moving forward? How are we elevating the program, whether it's for me, whether it's looking at our schedule and making sure that we've got the right matchups in the 56 game schedule. So there's just a lot of reflection, practice, right? How was that? A lot of different departments that are associated with our program, whether it's strength and conditioning, academics, athletic training, in the NIL space, how it's my job to reflect and start planning for next year for our team in all facets. And thankfully we've got a hardworking not only coaching staff but a support staff. And I've been in a lot of meetings the past 2 weeks of, hey, we did this well, but what's the plans and how are we getting better in all aspects of the program?
You finished this season with 30 wins. That's the fourth time in the last 5 years. You've won double digits, Big Ten, 5 years in a row. How different is this program from the one you walked into when you got here? And what is the difference?
I think when there's different chapters, and I think when a new coach comes into any program, it's simply the start of a new chapter, right? So yes, the program was certainly different when I first came in, and it's really just the standards and the way that we do things now as a program. And I have certain standards and expectations, as does any coach. So I think that's just been the biggest change for me, is just seeing that a lot of things that I had to teach, our kids when I first got here, like, hey, here's what we're gonna have our program be about. This is what family, blue collar, and tough mean. Now, a lot of things are just very seamless, and I'm so thankful for. We have great leadership on our team. We have great captains, and really, I think, we just have a bunch of kids who are bought in, and it makes my job as a coach a lot easier, because a lot of the things that was coming from me early on, now it's coming from our captains and our upperclassmen. But Nick said this earlier on one of our calls. I'm not sure what the stat is, but I think the 30 season win, that's a big deal for our program, because we haven't had that in years past. So I'm very proud of that. But Nick knows that I will also be the first to say that there's expectations to continue to grow and elevate this program. So
Coach Skidowski, when we talked to him I don't know, a while ago, talked about being a sore loser. When his team is done with playoffs, tournaments, he's not watching. We went through regionals, super regionals are coming up in women's softball. How do you consume games? Are you rooting for the conference in any way? Like, how does this part of the season play out if you're not part of it for you?
I'm just like Coach, man. I am not a very good loser, so I will have to say. I remember when UCLA was playing Nebraska, and I had one of our fans reach out and, Coach, what did you think about that play? And I said, I am not watching that game. When you want to be the one playing in the game, really hard to stomach that. So I will say I took a little bit of a break from watching softball, because it's just hard, because we know where we wanted to be this year. We didn't quite get there, but it's such a great game, and it was hard for me to stay away for too long. So I got right back into it, just like everybody else watching regionals. But I wasn't glued to my television for every single game. But yeah, I think all of us as coaches, we all want to, even if you're making it to the semis, right? You still want to keep going and still you still want to get to the next game. But yeah, I just think our sport, the amount that it's grown and the exposure that it's received, it's been pretty awesome just to see. So I'm proud of just where our sport has come, the popularity of our sport. And one of my I'm not just the head coach of Penn State, but I'm also an ambassador of the sport. And so that's how I look at it. It's like I need to keep growing the game and help, which means I have to support the game. So that's how I get myself out of the rut of our season being over. But it is such a great game to watch, and once people start watching it, they can't stop. So which is pretty cool.
No, we made the mistake of giving up YouTube TV too early last year and didn't have softball, so we kept it a little longer. We're getting through the Women's World College World Series, and then we'll get rid of it.
Okay.
How big is the gap between the teams that are at the super regional level and the teams that are just angry that they missed? Like, what's the difference, or how big is that gap? Or where is the gap? Maybe is the gap
Yeah.
at 30 or 12? Like, where does that gap exist?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think where the sport, not just the super regional, but I think just in general, there's a lot of parity in the game right now. Now NIL is a big deal, payroll, I mean, that stuff does matter. So you've got certain schools who, I mean, I'll just say it, the Texas Techs and the Oklahomas, right? But then you've got a school like a program like UCF who made it to the super regionals, right? I mean, that's a really big deal for that program to make it. And Grand Canyon was a school that was right on the verge of making it to super regionals. To get past Nebraska though, that's another that would have been tough. But in short, and then you have a program like Florida State who you're thinking should go to super regionals and they don't, right? So I think where the sport is right now, there's been a lot of programs as of late who have really, and Belmont was another great program this year because of the lefty pitcher, right? And they were right on the verge as well. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of parity in the game, but I think that's what makes our game great is because of you just never, you never know who's going to be able to get to super regionals or to Oklahoma City.
Thanks.
Is Pennsylvania a softball
Absolutely.
state?
I'm at Penn State. Absolutely, it's a softball state.
Is is don't give me the I'm the coach at Penn State. I think
Yeah.
to me it seems like it is. I feel like that is one of the popular states. Have you been able to tap into that as a
For su Yes, I mean,
recruiting
our
pipeline,
starting
if you will?
shortstop right now, Kaylee Walters was a transfer from, St. Francis, and Kirsten Finarelli, our freshman first baseman, before she went down, she was our starting first baseman. We have Maddie Seidel, so there are a lot of great players that are in the state of Pennsylvania, so yes, and I would say there's a lot of great players just in this region, and when you think about where Pennsylvania is, we're connected to a lot of the Northeast, right? You can get to Carolinas and I mean, you can drive down there. So I think we're in a great region, and I think there's a lot of great players in the state. And actually, my staff is out right now. One's in Pittsburgh watching some high school softball, and the other one's going up to Slippery Rock today to watch a high school game. I was at in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago watching some ball. So we're kind of in the 2 weeks of not being able to recruit. We've been hitting it hard with the high school recruits. So we wouldn't be sitting at high school games in PA if they weren't good ones. So
Even in the
yes, my
snow?
assistant sat in on a game, and she said the real fill was about 28, but we would play in it in the Big Ten. So absolutely.
I want to note that she said her assistant does that and
You know
not her
what? If I
herself was
had to be
Hawaiian.
there, I would be
Um,
all in. Once I commit, I am all in. So I was fortunate the night that I went out a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't too bad, but I would say it's kind of been a crazy winter. So
Long winter.
yeah, no, yeah, that's for sure. You are sitting here with a Nike
yeah.
swoosh on. Pretty soon, you will be required to switch to an Adidas logo. For coaches, is that something that comes up on the recruiting trail that you're switching to
For
becoming an
sure,
Adidas
with
school?
social media. First off, I just want to commend our athletic director, Dr. Pat Kraft, and I think he only makes decisions in our department that are going to best serve our student athletes. That's it. That's how he makes his decisions. So this Adidas deal that he was able to land for our department and for our university and for our student athletes, it's one of the best in the country. And for us, we're all in. So I will tell you that our softball team and all of our recruits, when the transition first happened, I'm very transparent with our recruits, and here we are moving to Adidas, and this is going to be a great opportunity for all of you as it is for our current student athletes. So, but yes, absolutely, it's something that comes up on the recruiting trail. But we're all excited, and yes, I will be purging the swoosh starting July 1st. So I'm already starting the Adidas, starting to look for my Adidas gear. I actually, at my old school where I came from, Miami University in Ohio, we were Adidas, so I still have some old school Adidas gear. So I might have to yeah, I've got some throwbacks. I found one just Adidas shirt, and I thought, well, maybe too soon. We'll just wait till July 1st rolls around. But yeah, we're excited about it and excited to, make that transition to Adidas.
And in your world, it's attire more than equipment, right? I mean, because gloves are Mizuno or and bats or
Yeah.
somebody else. Like it's not actual. I mean, I guess cleats, but
Yep.
for you guys, it's attire. Not to diminish
For
what
sure.
that means, but okay.
Yeah, so for us, well, I have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Mizuno. They have sponsored our program since we've been here, and they provide everything that we have from the gloves to the bats. And if you look at, our program was 70, I think we hit 75. Nick, you could probably correct me, but we're a top 25 program in with home runs. Our offense was, and I think you all know that, we broke a lot of records last year. We broke a lot of records this year, and yes, it's all our student athletes, but the bats help. And when you look at really just the top 25 teams that are leading in home runs, a lot of them are Mizuno schools. So just very thankful for their sponsorship of our program.
Last one for me. It's the important one. What is your
Oh,
go-to
I'm
creamery
so
ice cream?
traditional. I'm just the cookies and cream and chocolate chip cookie dough. I know. It's pretty traditional though. It's not anything fun. It's not what is Coach Paterno's the is it peachy Paterno? You know what? The next time I go
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
creamery, I'm gonna try something different. I'm
Just don't
not
say
gonna have
just don't do
yeah.
vanilla. I thought you were gonna say you were like traditional and it was vanilla. I'm like, that's not even they didn't
yeah,
even make that stuff. So
yeah.
No,
That was what my
no,
concern
definitely
was.
the only one I will not try is mint chocolate chip. That's the only one that I'm out on the mint chocolate chip. So right.
It's a no for me as well on that. I don't. It's just
I
mint and chocolate should
agree.
not go together. My wife swears that it works, and I don't. I
You
wait,
disagree.
now that we're
know,
I
down the food hole,
full-heartedly
I got one
disagree.
question. Well, go finish on the mint chocolate chip. Go ahead, keep bashing.
okay.
Is that where you're going?
No, I was gonna say I will tell you guys a little secret about me, and I just told somebody the story last week. But if I see anything, and I'm from Hawaii, right? Very proud Hawaiian. But if I see anything on the menu that says Hawaiian pizza or Hawaiian chicken, I will not get it because I do not think pineapple should be on any foods. So, kind of like the mint and like it should not mix. So I am out on the Hawaiian anything.
That's for one. That's kind of
So,
where I was going. I'm just curious what can you not get here, whether it was Virginia Tech or northeast part of the country, authentically, even in the era of Amazon and ship stuff that's
right.
just not the same. What can't you get?
Oh, most things from Hawaii. The only really everything, but my mom and my aunt. So my parents live down in the DC area with my brothers, and my mom will come up with my aunt who lives down in Kentucky, and we're all obviously from Hawaii. They'll bring and they will cook all the food because you can't. So anytime my family is in town, we are eating Hawaiian food at my house. You will not see us at a restaurant because my house becomes the Hawaiian restaurant in State College. So in short, there's not a lot of foods that I can get here that's true Hawaiian food, unfortunately. But no excuses. We just make it ourselves. And my mom and my auntie are great cooks. They're the best.
We got a food truck opportunity for NIL, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to
yeah.
invite you guys over
There
the
we
next
go.
time they're up this fall. So
Cool.
yeah.
Very good.
Coming to Nittany Lion Softball
I
Park
am trying
in
to figure out a way to get
2027.
food
A
trucks in.
Hawaiian.
We're trying to enhance our tailgating experience in our facility, and Nick and I were just on a call about that today. Food trucks has been a topic. I'm trying to figure out how we can get some food trucks. So we might have to have a Hawaiian barbecue food truck.
There you go.
All right, Nick, we'll put that
There
one
you
on the
go.
list
There you
too.
go. Well, thank you for joining us, Clarissa. What quickly as we go here, what can people look forward to this off season? What should they be paying attention to this off season? And your final moment to
Yeah,
kind of plug
right now
whatever.
we're in the thick of recruiting and getting ready for the transfer portal and summer recruiting to open up. So I think that's the biggest thing. And we are for the most part we only graduated three, which is great, right? And we've got all of our kids coming back. So we'll have a few additions to the roster after the summer recruiting. We've got four awesome freshmen that are coming in that we're really excited about. And we've got a lot of our student athletes that are going out and doing really cool things this summer. So just I know Nick will be posting about some of the internships that they're doing, but yeah, I think the biggest thing is we've got majority of the team coming back. We had a lot of freshmen that have a year under their belt, and I'm so excited to see them progress. And and get better, and just our team as a whole. But yeah, we're excited. I know Nick will be keeping up with our social media channels to keep everybody excited about our squad coming back next fall and Team 62. We're looking forward to having them. I actually took a picture of our field today because I missed our team, and I put I cannot wait. I missed our team and just everybody who was a part of last year. So great motivation to work hard this summer, and we'll see everybody back at Beard Field this fall.
Thanks.
All right, thank you guys. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much. Steve, for one, I loved her authenticity, both of the Pennsylvania answer and of the Hawaii answer. I appreciated that. But two, I do think what she said about the being an ambassador to the sport and being an ambassador to Penn State is really important, because I feel like, unlike college basketball, and we talked about it there a little bit, unlike women's college basketball has become ubiquitous throughout the start of the season all the way till their March Madness is over. I feel like, to your point, softball kind of explodes right now, in part because there's a hole to fill in the schedule. But I do think it takes people with, I do think the authenticity that came from Clarisa there, that's what it takes to grow sports. And I thought that was really great. I also, like, not to sound, you know, doing it the right way, but every answer that she gave us, she said the word academics first. She prioritized academics, and I think when we get anxious about college athletics and the future of college athletics, it's people like that can kind of ground the process a little bit, that I think we need to hear more from, in particular.
I agree. I think there's a challenge on her competitive side. I do think, though, at some point, with the Texas Tech throwing money at the world, and the Belmont pitcher she made reference to, who turned down like six-figure salaries from places last year to stay at Belmont, whether or not that happens in the future for someone, that it's great that they're not doing that. And wrestling says that's not in their DNA either, although the wrestling team makes out pretty well in terms of how they pay people. There's probably a plateau, right? If you're not chest deep into NIL and you're only knee deep, that it may happen. But no, I think her authenticity, and I think we got, having been to a couple games, having watched games on TV, having had a player in class, I think that was very much the academic professional. There's an edge there too, right? Like there's a fun edge there too. That's like, she talked about her teammate sending her the picture and saying, "Yep, that's you." And I think that's what makes a fun coach too. It's kind of like Godowski, right? When he grits his teeth, starts talking about something, you go, "Oh yeah, there's that passion," and that exists in the softball team as well, which is fun.
Nice. I think that was a good point. Well, thank you to her for joining us. I thought that was a great conversation.
And thanks to Nick.
Yes, thanks.
Sports Communications got lots of shout outs there, and should have, as he should have.
Yes. We always appreciate the SIDs for hooking us up and not banning us, especially after we write. Well, I write something like I wrote this week.
You summed up stuff with a summer scale. I thought that
I wasn't, to be clear, I sent Steve an email earlier a couple weeks ago and said, I think we should call it whatever I called it, but it would be the initials of SSSWS index, which also would have been like stood for. Steve was like, it's the summer scale, it's easier. And I was like, you're right. So we have invented a new content avenue for us, if you will, of measuring success of the Penn State athletic program. And I think where this all came about was the conversation that's collectively been going on since the time that Drew Aller threw an interception in the Oregon Whiteout game, right? Like this has turned into a disappointing year. And that's pretty much what the data in and of itself shows. And it seems like it has been a ripple effect from Beaver Stadium to kind of every other little athletic building that surrounds Beaver Stadium. I think let's start there. I didn't get into I wanted to do this as a data approach. I didn't want to throw in the Pat Kraft leaked audio, which is certainly part of this, the wild coaching search, which is certainly part of this, the expectations around men's hockey, which is certainly part of this. Did it from a data perspective because we wanted to look at it that way. But I think we can talk about those secondary moments that have added to the frustration, I think, really of everybody. I think everybody from Penn State fandom to Penn State athletics itself kind of is feeling it and seeing this. And it was a I don't know that it was necessarily the most disappointing year per se. It was certainly probably the most frustrating year, especially for what it could have been. Let me get into, is it okay if I get into the numbers here first before you offer a rebuttal or second comment? So how this works was we/me developed a formula based off of the win-loss percentage, basically games above or below 500, the conference success, so conference postseason success of winning some sort of tournament or championship, and then postseason success in the NCAAs, which both appearance-based and then also national titles. I think obviously much of this was built around the fact that there were supposed to be or there was asked to be 4 national championships this year, and Penn State got the one, which is the one that it's gotten however many times. But I think 9 of the 11 years that this data included, and one of those there wasn't even a national championship competed for. I think that's important. I think that adds to the frustration, and when we kind of look at it on the raw score basis, that lowered Penn State to the worst year under Pat Kraft. And then once we adjusted it also with spend, and why I chose the spend was that was the easiest way for me to come up with the way people care about Penn State sports. Steve and I are in the nitty-gritty, but the average Penn State sports fan probably cares about 1 to 2 Penn State wholeheartedly and just happens to know that a few other sports exist. And, I think that was where the spend came, and that showed both how the athletic department ranks that success, ranks that the importance, and then as well, just the national conversation. That spit out over a 4-year rolling average to what was the lowest score really since 2021-22 at a 0.79, which, the highlights of the year, I would argue, would be James Franklin being fired and then Penn State women's hockey reaching the Frozen Four, an actual highlight of the year. I think all of that is to say, again, incredibly frustrating year for Penn State athletics that I think feels like the pressure of 4 national championships, whether that was directly asked this year or just over the tenure of Pat Kraft. I think that was frustrating. And I think the frustration of not treating basketball, not treating certain sports certain ways, I think that also boiled up and kind of is just showing through in some of this data. Questions, comments, concerns, Mr. Samsel?
There's a lot of I appreciate the effort that makes it data, right? That puts a number to it that you can now track a little bit and follow going forward. So I think that's fun and interesting, no matter if somebody says, oh, the methodology is different. So what? We have something that's going to be consistent going forward. So I think that's really cool, and kudos to you on that. A lot of it is a feel. I mean, yes, there weren't wins and losses. There weren't championships. There were self-imposed expectations, as we've talked about before, that come with the bravado that's become part of this program's DNA, which is perhaps not part of the program's DNA traditionally. But I do think that's a change that fans respond to and like. So I think that's not going to change, and people probably don't have a problem with that. But there's a feel to all this. There's they didn't meet expectations. There could have been more. And I think that colors, again, some of the stuff that happened that was cool. I don't know who would have given them credit besides us. I mean, the hockey thing was really good. I mean, stinking really cold, but on their own and done well, despite, ice things that you can't handle and whatever else. I do think they care about the student athletes. At the same time, I do think there's stuff there that the spend on NIL they've stepped back on doing some things for some other student athletes because they're investing in paying athletes, right? I think softball's an example, and we didn't get to it, and it's just now hitting me. Like, their travel was commercial for a couple trips, including the one to Oregon, which was the biggest trip of the year. In the past couple years, in the pro student athlete era, before focusing on them before NIL becomes so big, we were Penn State was chartering more things for bigger flights and whatever else, and those were there for a while. Now they've gone away because of the NIL expense. So I think there's probably some internal frustration among teams, even though they believe in the boss's plan and vision, they've probably had to step back. They've had to fundraise more themselves. So I think frustration is a good word. I think others close to the program would point to successes, but at the same time,
Compared
if you're honest about what
they're not there.
if you're honest about what some programs are doing, I think you're just hopeful that women's basketball figures out how to do some things, right? And that'll help them. In men's basketball, I don't know what your hope is there exactly.
I don't know anymore either.
Hockey will be a challenge. Football, I think, is going to be okay in terms of on your numbers and your data for next year. But yeah, I think it's a fun exercise. And I think there's both logical and emotional aspects to it. And that's what makes sports entertaining and fun and why people support or don't support, which I think is cool.
I think the bravado thing is an interesting argument because I do think that has been the MO of Pat Kraft and has been resonated. And I think we saw that particularly when the audio leaked of, hey, like we're attacking the enemy type thing. Like fans responded to that. The audio itself wasn't necessarily bad. It was maybe unprofessional, or unfortunate that it got leaked and recorded. And that's not fair to Kraft that it was recorded because he thought that was in confidence. But I do think, going back to what you said, like I think it's fascinating. It's interesting to see how long that bravado can cover up substance. And I think if there's not substance there, especially for how much bravado was provided entering this, really since the Notre Dame football game, right? Like the second the Notre Dame game happened, even with men's hockey going to the Frozen Four now 2 seasons ago, it was we're gonna go do this thing, and none of those things felt like they happened, and it felt like, ooh, let's let a punch in the gut to that bravado. So,
And I think that's the big challenge of the whole thing. The whole thing is, unless your top programs are winning national championships every single year and are winning conference championships every single year, in this new model, people who are supporting it are probably going to say, okay, so what do we get for our support? Like, what do we get, right? So, and you've got to not defend, because nobody's going to say, oh, the Adidas deal isn't as good as the Nike deal, or they're equal. It's just that we were sold better and they were nicer to the AD. Like, nobody's going to say that if it was true or it wasn't true. They're going to say, hey, this is defending our student athletes. This is the best possible thing. It's going to be great. But if everything's great and the results are what you had this year over a couple seasons, then maybe donors or maybe people who are supporting it say, hey, are we going to continue to do that? And if they don't, then you better hope your football stadium's generating enough revenue. But then are they going to share it with the other sport? It's all kinds of fun. Like, that's the kind of stuff for what we do, and watching it nationally for people who do that kind of stuff, talk about it, that makes the off-field stuff almost as fun as the on-field stuff.
Yeah. Didn't really have any other thoughts there. One national championship this year, down from 2. Really, Penn State only has won, outside of wrestling, just 2 in the last 10, 12 years. I didn't realize this. I knew this, and I forgot about this. I was looking it up over the weekend. The last time Penn State won a non-wrestling men's sports national championship, I think, was PAV with the men's volleyball team back in 2008, 2009. There has not been anything since, which just feels like a wild drought for, generally speaking, how successful the athletic department is, right? Like, it's not like we're talking about the Little Sisters of the Poor here. This is an athletic department that ranks pretty decently on the Learfield Cup that Stanford just wins every year because some reason swimming or whatever, it's skewed towards swimming. But I think that was, I just thought that was an interesting nugget to keep.
What's the next non-wrestling Penn State men's sport you think will win a national championship?
I still think, I know they lost this weekend, but I think lacrosse is viable. I think football is going to get there eventually. I really do. And there's a significant gap there, right? Like, I think it's very reasonable to have a national championship expectation for, especially with the core that men's lacrosse has coming back. But then there's a gap. Like, I don't know that there's another sport that comes to mind for a while, and then it's football, and then
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's men's lacrosse is
men's hockey, it could happen. You know, men's volleyball, they get hot one year. That could happen just with the path in through the EIVA. Like, but there's a lot more could there than feel.
okay. That's fair. And on the women's side, it feels like there's a few more.
The women's side is
Soccer, women's volleyball.
soccer, women's volleyball, even now women's hockey. Yeah, like all three of those, they feel like every year, all three of them, even last year, felt like they all compete for a national championship. It's just what they do in the postseason and kind of how it shakes out in the postseason. And then I think, again, there's a significant gap, and I don't know that, gun to my head, I don't know if I could answer who would be next. All right. This week's Old Guy, Young Guy is brought to you by the weekend work I did. And I had this thought for the, sixth summer that I've now done this. What is the point of mulch? Why do I go and spend money on mulch and spread it in my yard and sweat for fancy dirt? Is that all mulch is? Fancy dirt?
It'll be composted in a couple years.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Go buy stones. Switch to stones. We did stones in our very first house and then got away from it when we came to this house because it seemed like it was going to be an expensive transition. And we did stones last year in like October, November before the season changed. We stoned stuff, pulled up the mulch, threw it in the garden. I'll till it in with the stuff and white plant later this week. I've tilled it a couple times, but yeah, stones. Doesn't blow away. Doesn't lose color. Don't have to do it every year.
I was thinking about this. I remember that you had said you switched to stones, and I got to be honest, it's just like I go spend like $50, which when they have the sale, like it's a lot of mulch.
And there's a high that comes with mulch. Don't get there's that first 2 days high.
It'll look great for the next week, and then it's gonna go. All the colors should go. Yeah, that's the other thing. The color does not last a full. Never has lasted a full year. That is the biggest marketing scam. There's
you
class
it every year.
Yeah, there's a class action lawsuit to be made. And half the times the black mulch is brown anyways. Or gray.
It's like, what was it? The host used to talk about like the donuts, right? Like the Krispy Kreme donuts, and the first one's good, and then you just can't get that high again. The mulch the first couple days is like, oh my gosh, what an artist I am in the yard. And then after that, stuff's just blowing around, loses its color, and by the fall, you're like, did I do anything this spring? So, stones, my friend.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's this week's Okay Young Guy. That's this week's podcast. We enter summer mode now. I don't know that we'll be as we skipped last week. I don't know that we'll be every week, but we will at least be every other week at minimum. We'll see what happens. That being said, we will definitely have you ready and set for Adidas coming.
We have a countdown clock, right?
We have a countdown clock. We have that.
Which those other podcasts don't have.
Yeah, they don't have that. That's right. You hear that, Brian Tripp? We've got a bunch of other stuff. So we'll have a good summer. Like we'll be busy. Football season, then we'll be here before you know it. But first, we gotta see what this Adidas launch is all about and what's happening with that. So, because this is at least in terms of a niche, hyper niche Penn State sports media / sports business podcast, our Super Bowl, right? We are probably, unless we do this podcast for 15 years, we'll do this podcast forever. But you know. So it's gonna be at least another 10 years that we give another.
At some point, it'll be old guy.
Yeah, pretty soon. All right, that's this week's podcast. Thank you to Clarisa for joining us. Really appreciated that conversation. Our website where you can go look at the summer scale is stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate everybody that's done that for us. Emails. Mine's Darian at StuffSummerSays. Steve's is
Steve at StuffSummerSays.com.
Thank you. I meant .com at the end of mine. Lastly, you can find me on the internet at StuffSummerSays. Your friend Steve.
At Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.